Alabama is going into the 2022 college football season absolutely loaded. And I know we say this about Alabama almost every single year, but I think that this could be one of the best Alabama teams that we have seen under Nick Saban. I mean, they're a juggernaut. And I don't want to say that they are unbeatable because we already know what the mantra is in college football. Any given Saturday, any team can fall. But I think that this Alabama team is so talented that I think that they're going to beat every single opponent they match up against in the regular season by at least 14 points or more. I mean, you have Bryce Young coming back at quarterback. He won the Heisman Trophy last season, and I think he's going to end up winning it again. And yes, I think he's going to win it over C.J. Stroud. You're loaded at wide receiver. The rich get richer is what they say. You get Jermaine Burton from the transfer portal. The dude is an athletic freak, a monster, great size. He can catch almost anything. You also get Tyler Harrell from Louisville. You have Ja'Cory Brooks, who could be in for a breakout season. JoJo Earl as well. Christian Leary. And then you have tight end Cameron Latu, who was third on the team last season in receiving yards. He had 26 receptions, 410 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns, and averaged 15.8 yards per reception. And the thing about Cameron Latu is that he was overshadowed by Jamison Williams and John Mechie. I think Cameron Latu may be the most underrated tight end in college football. I mean, he's really good, really good. And then, not only do you get Jermaine Burton and Tyler Harrell from the transfer portal, but you have this freak in Jahmyr Gibbs. You see, a lot of people don't know who Jahmyr Gibbs is because he played in the ACC for Georgia Tech. But I mean, this dude is a monster. And I have this LSU fan that keeps harassing me in the comment section saying that Jahmyr Gibbs is not going to be good in the SEC. He was able to be so good in the ACC because he was playing inferior competition. Like, that's just nonsense. Like, if you're watching this, shut up, please. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute freak. If he ends up declaring for the NFL draft, I expect him to be a first-round draft pick. Phenomenal size, freakish athlete. He probably runs a 4.4. And on top of that, he has incredible acceleration, great strength, great contact balance. On top of that, he has really phenomenal hands out of the backfield. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jahmyr Gibbs line up in the slot. And you know, all throughout spring, I've seen nothing but articles about Jahmyr Gibbs. It seems as if he has won an award every single week during the spring session for Alabama. And then he also won Alabama Spring MVP. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is a monster. And I mean, if you thought Jahmyr Gibbs was a monster, I mean, wait till we get to the defense. I mean, we already know about Will Anderson. Will Anderson may be probably the scariest player in the history of college football. I mean, I don't know how he didn't end up finishing in second place for the Heisman Trophy behind Bryce Young, but it's amazing. And that makes me realize Alabama has the two best players in college football on their roster. That just goes to show you just how talented this Alabama team is. Bryce Young and Will Anderson could probably be the first 2 picks of next year's NFL draft. 1 and 2. Now, it doesn't matter the order. Rather you think Bryce Young goes first or Will Anderson goes first. I don't think there has ever been a team in the history of college football that have the first 2 picks in the NFL draft off the same team. It's ridiculous. You look at the defensive line, Byron Young, DJ Dell. You got Henry To'oTo'o coming back, who led the team in tackles last season. You have Dallas Turner. I mean, where do they find some of these guys at? Dallas Turner looks like the Incredible Hulk. I mean, he looks like somebody who has never missed a day in the gym. I don't know where Alabama finds some of these players from, but they are a football factory. Literally, it's like they have a conveyor belt. They create their own football players. They're playing NCAA 14 mode But they're editing the rosters and everybody has a 99 overall and everybody has maxed out physical attributes. Like, I don't know where Alabama gets some of these recruits from, but it's ridiculous. And then that cornerback, this may be one of the best secondaries that we have seen out of Alabama in a very long time. Not saying something because Alabama has had some of the best secondaries in the history of college football, but this just might be the best one. Eli Ricks, transferred from LSU, without a doubt is most likely going to be a first-round pick in next year's draft. You have Jordan Battle, who also potentially could be another first-round pick from this secondary. You have my guy, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I love that name, man. Do you know that he has a NIL deal with Kool-Aid? That's cool. No pun intended. You got Byron Branch, who also is one of the best defensive backs in college football. I mean, this Alabama team, if you're facing Alabama, I mean, how do you beat this team? The only way you can hope to beat this team is if they just come out flat. And if they just beat themselves. You also have DeMarco Hellams. I mean, I'm not done naming players. I mean, these are some phenomenal players that they have on this defense. There are a lot of guys who most likely are going to be playing on Sundays. They're going to be getting drafted really high whenever they decide to declare for the NFL draft. I mean, it's ridiculous. Alabama never rebuilds. They just reload. It's absolutely mind-blowing because when you think about this team last year, many Alabama fans will probably tell you that the 2021 Alabama team was one of the most least talented teams that Nick Saban has had. At least when you look at what they did on the field. I understand that they were the most talented team in college football when it comes to recruiting rankings and whatnot. When you look at how they produced on the field, they were really inconsistent. You lost to Texas A&M. You struggled to beat Auburn, a lowly LSU football team. And despite that, you were able to upset Georgia in the SEC championship game and still make it to the national championship. Now, I'm not worried about the offensive line. The offensive line is going to improve. It's going to be really good. When you look at Alabama's schedule, it's really no game that you can look at and say it's 50-50. I mean, you playing Utah State, you get your little tune-up game before you play Texas on the road, and you should be able to handle Texas. Texas may give Alabama a little bit of a fight early, but Alabama most likely probably will pull away. And then you have ULM, Vanderbilt, then you play Arkansas. Now, I think the Arkansas game is going to be really interesting because after you play Vanderbilt, you have a really tough stretch after that. You're playing Arkansas, A&M, Tennessee on the road, and Mississippi State. Then you got to go on the road to play LSU. Then on the road to travel to Ole Miss. So their schedule really gets tough. But I think that Arkansas game is really important to me because I think that Arkansas is going to be the second best team in the SEC West this year. I think that out of all the teams in the SEC West that Alabama plays this year, I think Arkansas has the best shot at beating them. And I understand that Texas A&M has probably a more talented roster than Arkansas, but I think that the play calling's better. And I also think that the offensive line for Arkansas is also going to be one of the best units in college football, which is something that you have to have if you want a shot at beating Alabama. But on top of that, you have KJ Jefferson, one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And if he develops over the course of this offseason, I think that there's a chance that, maybe Arkansas could give Alabama a slight scare for the first 3 quarters until they pull away. And then after that, you play Texas A&M. I already said earlier, it's going to be a bloodbath. I think that Texas A&M is going to get beheaded, and they're going to get splattered all over the road with their blood. And I think that we're going to be seeing Nick Saban in Alabama just write a bunch of profanities in Texas A&M's blood, saying that's what you get for disrespecting Coach Saban. I mean, every time somebody disrespects Coach Saban, it never ends up going well. You remember when LSU beat Alabama in 2019, that year they won a national championship? You know, they were feeling themselves. And then the following season, right? But Nick Saban was interviewed before the game. And this is one of the most cerebral interviews that I have ever seen from Nick Saban. I don't know what cerebral means, but I'm just going to use the word because I just saw it on his face like, Nick Saban is always locked in. But that 2020 LSU game was different. Because Nick Saban said that we want to come in here and change the way they think. And that's just one of the most scariest statements that I have ever heard from a head coach. And they most definitely did change the way that LSU thought, boy, because that game was a splattering. It should have just had rated R. If you're not over 18 or older, you can't watch it. That was one of those games that you send the kids to the bed really early, and then you just tell them don't look at the highlights because they're not going to like what they see. And I mean, for Alabama, man, this coaching staff is really good. I think that Bill O'Brien got a lot of hate that he didn't deserve last year. I don't know why it's so popular for people to hate on Bill O'Brien simply because he didn't work out with the Houston Texans. And even then, he wasn't even a bad head coach for the Houston Texans. He won the AFC South several times, made it to the postseason, won a playoff game. Even before Deshaun Watson arrived, he won the playoff game with Brock Osweiler. A lot of people forget what Bill O'Brien did for Penn State. Bill O'Brien put the keys in motion for James Franklin. If it wasn't for Bill O'Brien, who knows what Penn State would be right now? So I think that Bill O'Brien gets a lot of undeserved criticism. Now, I understand that sometimes his play calling is questionable at times, but that's with any offensive coordinator. Everybody makes questionable play calls every once in a while. You got Pete Golding. I think it's only a matter of time before he ends up getting a head coaching job somewhere. I mean, this team is sick, man. Really sick. And I think that Alabama is probably going to be the closest thing that we have seen to being unstoppable in a very long time. And I think really the only team that has a legitimate shot at being able to actually challenge Bama this year is probably going to be Ohio State. You know, Georgia lost a great defense, one of the greatest defenses that we have seen ever in the history of college football. So I definitely think that Alabama should get the best of them. And I really think if you're looking at a team who can compete with Alabama, who has just about the same talent as this team does, I think it's really only Ohio State. But I think Alabama football, man, this is going to be an unstoppable train. And I don't think that nobody's going to have a chance of being able to stop it or slow it down. The only thing you can do is move out the way. Now, I'm not going to say that, Alabama can't lose a game or two, but it's going to be really hard looking at their schedule for me to even look at a game that I could really just look at and say, this is a game that could give Alabama some problems. But of course, college football is always unpredictable. We never know what to expect. But judging by the looks of this Alabama team and what they have done in the transfer portal over the course of this offseason, I don't really see nobody really pushing Alabama in the regular season. But let me know your thoughts on Alabama football going into the upcoming 2022 college football season down in the comment section down below.